Well, what's up everyone? My name is Justin, and today we're doing a vehicles tier list. I am shocked that there has not really been a single person in the Boom Beach Frontlines community that has made a vehicles tier list, or at least a good one. But as you know, I gotta be that guy who steps in and makes that video, so here we are. And if you find this video helpful as well, be sure to subscribe. I know that vehicles ended up winning that community poll, but that doesn't mean I'm going to avoid doing the defenses tier list. If I get 800 subscribers, then I'll do it. But anyways, let's just hop into this. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's start with armored car. So armored car, it's like probably the most standard vehicle you could ask for in the entire game. It costs 800 munitions now. It used to be 900, which is very nice. And it's kind of exactly what you would expect. It's got a decent amount of health, decent damage. It's fairly fast too. It's very well rounded, and honestly, there's not much I can complain about. I think I used to view armored cars just like the epitome of mid when it comes to vehicles, but I feel like since it's gotten cheaper and it's now 800, I kind of feel like I have more reasons to buy it. I mean, I know it's not the biggest difference, but I think for 800 munitions, it does exactly what you need. It's pretty good on defense. It's pretty good at taking over uncaptured points because it wins against most troops in the game. As long as there isn't a Zuka, you're pretty much guaranteed to get some solid amount of work put in. I wouldn't always buy it. Sometimes I'd want to save up for something better, but I will say I do think armored car is good. I would have probably rated it a C back in the day, but you know what? I think B is pretty comfortable for this vehicle right now. So we're gonna go with B tier. Also, before I move on, I'm seeing this right now as I'm looking into my face cam. Ignore this bump on the side of my head. I just got unlucky. Like, I don't know how it even showed up there. And there's also like this red spot on my nose. I don't know how that got there either, but let's just say that when I did the troops tier list video, when I didn't put cluster in the top 3, someone actually located my address, pulled up, and then punched me in the face. So yeah. Anyways, Mega Critter is pretty good. I would actually say Mega Critter is one of the greatest examples of extremely high value for the card's munition cost, because this thing costs 500, and for the amount of health and damage, being able to buy it at the start of the game is just awesome. Like, you can put in so much work. You could go like 1v3, 4, 5. It's insane how much potential you could have at the start of the game with Mega Critter. And for that reason, a long time ago, I actually did think Mega Critter was an S tier vehicle because it's just so much value coming out of this thing. But honestly, I feel like people have figured out how to play around Mega Critter at the start of the game. And actually, it's pretty simple. You just counterpick it with Zuka. You don't always have to do this, but if you notice that you are, going outside of your spawn at the start of the game and you see that the enemy team purchased Mega Critter, then you can stay on Zuka, assuming you pick Zuka at the start. And if they don't go Mega Critter, then you can buy Mega Critter yourself. Obviously, I'm not saying that Mega Critters can't kill Zukas, but if Zukas are protected by really anyone, she'll get a lot of solid shots of Mega Critter, and that'll bring it down much sooner than usual. So for that, I think A tier makes sense. This thing still puts in a ridiculous amount of work in early game, but it can get counter picks, which a lot of good players will do. And I also feel like after early game, it's not something that I buy very often, but still a solid A tier I think is very reasonable for it. All right, well, I don't know why this thing had to show up so early on. Like, it's only the third card here, bro. It's only the third card here. But seeing as we're already here, I'm just gonna say it. I don't think this should be a surprise to anybody. Tank is the best vehicle in the game. I mean, are you surprised? Am I surprised? No one's surprised. Come on, bro. Tank has just always been top tier. It's been nerfed before too. Did not affect it at all. Yes, I know it's expensive. It costs 1750 munitions, but who cares? It has so much health, so much damage. This thing controls the area like none other. It's a vehicle, and yes, that means it's an armored unit, but does that mean that it loses to Zuka? Absolutely not, because it just beats everything in this game. Seriously, like, Tank doesn't get hard countered by anything. Defenses included, really. I feel like any game that has Tank, your goal is to buy a Tank. Am I wrong for that? Probably not, because Tank is just so good, dude. 1750 munitions, but when you get into that thing, you're probably guaranteed to pick up multiple kills. So in a way, it's like less expensive than it appears to be. It's just so good. I mean, I don't need to explain this a lot. you should know how good Tank is. I know how good Tank is. We all know how good Tank is. It's the best vehicle in the game and one of the best cards in the game. Undoubtedly. Straight facts. I don't think anyone disagrees. It's Tank. You know what else is really good? 4x4. 4x4 is an incredible vehicle as well. And I think that a lot of maybe casual or just not very experienced players don't look at 4x4 as a top tier card in this game, but truth be told, it really is, especially, or more specifically really, when you are playing with a squad, because 4x4, there's just so many things you could do with a 4x4, man. 4x4 double shotgunner, 4x4 double sniper, it's 4x4 double anything, bro. Double warrior too. 4x4 double war. I did that in one of my videos. It's good. It's really good. And that's not even all there is to it. Like I said, Mega Critter is really good in early game, and that's kind of it. 4x4 is just good anytime. Like if you can see a play with 4x4, just go for it, because a play with 4x4 can be made at nearly any point in the game. You can use it to capture bases, control the field, and just pick up a bunch of kills. And I think, in my opinion, the best way to use it is on offense with 2 Zookas. It's a common strategy called blitzkrieging, where you get 2 of your squad mates, they go Zooka, they get into your 4x4, and you just go right in and try to take out the HQ or just really any defenses. It's ridiculously strong, and all you're doing is investing 500 munitions for a massive push. The amount of versatility that 4x4 has is undefeated, and the fact that 500 munitions is all you need to pull off however many crazy things you could think of. People sleep on this thing so hard, and I feel like as this game goes on, it's only going to get better and better and better. Wild prediction, it could be a future contender for best vehicle in the game. I think, maybe. At least it will maintain top 3, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's S tier. It's really good. Now, if you're solo queuing, it's a different story, but I mean, I don't need to explain that. Okay, next up, I think I got a more controversial take. Now, I will say this tier list, while it is based on my opinion, a lot of people should agree with nearly all of my placements here. This tier list is definitely much less controversial than my troops tier list. It's always my troops tier list that's the most controversial for sure. But yeah, Scorcher, I don't actually think is S tier. I'm gonna go A tier on this. And my reasoning for going A tier, and I will put higher than Mega Critter though. My reasoning for going for A tier, well, let's say the good things first. The good thing is it's got so much health. It's a bit less expensive than Tank is, though I would never say that it's better than Tank, but yeah, it's like 1600, which is really good. It's got splash damage, so you can destroy a bunch of people at once. I think what I will say is that this is arguably the best vehicle in the game for going over uncaptured points, because when you die, you have that whole flame strike kind of thing that covers the area. But for me, what I think knocks it down to the A tier is that despite being such a powerful vehicle, it actually has a hard counter, which is Zooka. Yeah, right. Not a vehicle that hard counters it, a troop that hard counters it. Zooka obviously 3 times damage to armor, which is a pain for Scorcher. On top of that, what's an even bigger pain is that Scorcher gets outranged by Zooka. So really anyone who's decent with moving around with Zooka will just completely take a Scorcher down, which is really deadly. And even though Scorcher is such a good vehicle on defense, at any point in the game when a Zooka approaches on offense, which will obviously become much more common when there's less bots in this game, yeah, Scorcher has a hard time dealing with Zooka, a really hard time. And also, hot take, I think as this game goes on, Scorcher will get worse. I know some people might think it'll get better because more people will buy it, but I think it'll get worse because people will be prepared for that. So I think in the future, this vehicle could be B tier, not even gonna lie. But for now, high A tier I think makes a lot of sense. It's still a powerhouse of a vehicle, let's be honest here. But you know what's not a powerhouse of a vehicle? Mortar Bike. Bruh, why do so many like random new players, casual players, low level players, like why do you just randomly buy Mortar Bike in the middle of the game and just try to kill people with it? If you are one of those people, listen up, bro. Stop it. You are ruining the experience for yourself and all your teammates and even the enemies, because they are just cringing right now when they see that. If you're gonna buy Mortar Bike, I better be seeing you attack with it, because if I see you running back to defend with a Mortar Bike, best believe everyone's going to hate you. But that being said, when you play Mortar Bike at its best, it's still kind of like, I don't know, its health is all right, I guess. Its damage is okay, I guess. It has fantastic range, but truthfully, I wouldn't really spend the munitions for it. I can see some situations in which it would actually be kind of hard to deal with if it's your best bet, because it's kind of like a fire bomber with more health. But at the same time, I would rather just go fire bomber and buy a power up. I don't see why you would rather go mortar bike in most scenarios. I can see it being used sometimes though, and I don't think it's trash because it can actually be good sometimes. It's just very rare that in which it's good. I'm going C tier. All right, next up we got APC. I've been juggling back and forth between S tier and A tier for APC for some reason, because obviously the thing I compare it to the most is 4x4, and in my personal opinion, 4x4 is just so good. It's so valuable. And APC, it does cost much more, almost 3 times more. It costs 1,400, which I think makes sense. I mean, it's got a ridiculous amount of health and you can pick up 3 people with it. So if 4x4 doesn't end up being the best vehicle in the future, it'll probably be APC because it's just really, really tanky and has a lot of versatility as well because you can have people inside of it. Also, you can shoot people with the APC, so that's pretty cool too. Only worst thing about it is that it has less speed. For the most part, it doesn't really matter too much. I am also going to put this thing in S tier because it just has unparalleled versatility in the same way that 4x4 does, but I am actually going to put it lower. Is this a hot take? Yes, it is. Do most people disagree with this? Yes. Are they both S tier though? Yes. So don't get mad at me. But I do feel like 4x4, like just the 500 munitions is so awesome and people are sleeping on it. But APC is incredible and I just don't really need to explain why too much. It's literally like an upgraded 4x4 in a way. Also, it can be really annoying to deal with when it's on bases and it's like pausing and people are inside of it, so it's just a lot to go through even after you take out the APC. Also, could you imagine having 3 Zookas in a vehicle? Like, that's crazy. All right, next up we got Mortar Bike Part 2. I mean, I guess it's got more health than Mortar Bike. Its damage still kind of sucks. I don't know. Again, same way as Mortar Bike, I feel like I would rather go Fire Bomber here. I almost never buy Missile Tank when it's in one of my games. I feel like Fire Bomber plus whatever power up is better, especially because this thing is actually a little pricey. Don't get me wrong, it's got incredible range and sometimes it can actually clutch up certain maps. It's really good, but I don't know, man. I don't really like it. I feel like it's so dead when it's on offense sometimes. Like if a defender's trying to take you out, you can't really do anything about it. You kind of just have to swallow the damage. And you'll often find that the amount of damage you get is not worth the munition cost. Like you may just end up getting shredded since you can't do anything about the defenders while you're there. And yeah, I think Fire Bomber does this vehicle better as a troop, which is crazy. It's like a win condition on a wheelchair. That's a great description. Man, I just randomly thought of that. That's a great description. It's like, wow. Yeah, it is like a win condition on a wheelchair. Yeah, it's also C tier. I mean, if Mortar Bike is C tier, I think this is C tier as well. Okay, next up we have Medi Tank. This is weird. This card is really weird because I used to think highly of this vehicle and now I don't. Because it's awkward, man. This card is really awkward. On paper, it's incredibly strong. I mean, it's a vehicle that heals people and you can splash people with healing, which is a lot of munitions that you get from it. But it's just, I don't know, like why, I don't get it. I don't get this vehicle. It's so awkward since Medic is already like pretty good. You don't really need a vehicle to do the same job that Medic does. Like, why am I spending munitions to get munitions? I know it's good for healing, but I don't know. Do I really want to play support in a vehicle? Like, why don't I just deal damage with the vehicle? I feel like oftentimes you don't need that much healing to make a difference in your game. And it's also really annoying to be in a support vehicle and sometimes feel like you need to do something to change the game, but you can't because you're kind of stuck in there. And you have to go die, which means that's a waste of munitions. It's not very good in that case, but like again, on paper, you get so many munitions from healing teammates with Medi Tank. But like you spent munitions to get that too. So it's like counterintuitive. I think conceptually Medi Tank is just really weird. Honestly, I don't like it. And I also feel like there's not many situations in which I want to buy it. Will I change in the future when there's more real players? Yeah, probably. I think people will actually buy it in the future when it's more applicable to real players. But right now, I just don't think I would need it ever. I would rather deal damage. Which I know is like a corny answer a lot of times, because I'm a huge supporter of support troops. But support vehicles, I don't see as necessary. There's just not a lot of times where it's the right play to make. And I think Medi Tank, there's not many times where I'm ever like, oh yeah, I really need to buy a Medi Tank right now. Almost never, really. So while I think that its stats are fantastic, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Also, it's weird because Medic always gets away from Zookas, but Medi Tank dies to Zooka. Like, you paid for a kind of a disadvantage in that scenario. It's kind of funny. Yeah, I'm gonna go C tier. And honestly, I am going to put it lower than Mortar Bike and Missile Tank. I was already thinking about this because I had this tier list, already had this tier list somewhat mapped out before recording. And I will say, I was thinking, should I put Medi Tank higher or lower? And I ultimately was thinking lower because I've honestly bought Medi Tank less times than I've bought Mortar Bike and Missile Tank. Next up, Tank Hunter. I used to think this was S tier. I'm not gonna go S tier now though, I will go A tier. I don't think of it as highly as like Tank, 4x4, and APC, or even Scorcher for that matter, but I will put it about here, I would say. I think that's pretty good. The good things about Tank Hunter are really good though. I mean, it's a vehicle made to destroy other vehicles, and there's basically almost always another vehicle somewhere on the field. Like, a vehicle that beats every other vehicle has to be at least A tier. I mean, it just has to be. I mean, it's made to kill other vehicles, and there's always other vehicles, so it just makes sense. But on top of that, like, not only is it great at taking down vehicles, it's actually a really solid vehicle to use to kill people and also just control the area. I know its accuracy sucks, but it's a fast vehicle, so you can get up close to people and shoot them right in their face, and that will never miss if you're that close. And also, it being so fast, it's actually not bad at running people over. So for the purpose that it has, it's really good. And even has some extra bonus things, like it's actually decent at killing people, which it shouldn't be allowed to do, but it does that. Next up, we got Rocket Trike. Man, this is a very funny vehicle. Rocket Trike's kind of bad, but it used to be the worst card in the game. It's not the worst card in the game now. There's a different worst card in the game, and it's actually going to be in this video later on. It's not Rocket Trike, but Rocket Trike is not very good. It's going to go in D tier. It's just way too fragile. I know it's kind of cheap, but it's way too fragile, like I just said. Its accuracy is also a huge low blow. Like, you'll miss almost all your... As I was saying, you basically miss almost all your shots from max range. You have to be really close, but you don't want to be really close because you die so quickly, so its range is kind of useless. Yeah, just not worth your munitions. It's super fast though. Vroom vroom, you know? And another thing I will add, actually I think my greatest victory, my greatest win of all time on Boom Beach Frontlines actually was because of Rocket Trike. I have a screenshot, I don't have the recording of the game, but I won this game and I got plus 15, which is the highest amount of medals that you can get as a GM. And I got it by pausing the enemies from capturing a point with Rocket Trike. And it was literally like a millisecond away from being captured. It was wild. It got a lot darker in here. I'm gonna turn on the lights real quick. Yeah, you know what happens? I mean, I usually record earlier in the day, but just inconvenient time. I've been very busy, so. All right, moving on. We got Bunker Buster. This vehicle has grown on me. I used to think this vehicle was really mid, like C tier mid, because it's so expensive and it's a huge gamble to purchase this thing. 2,000 munitions for a vehicle that, although it has a lot of health, it also tends to die pretty quickly because if you're going up against a bunch of defenses or there happens to be a Zooka randomly, you're not gonna be able to deal with that Zooka, and you may just die really fast and possibly only get one shot off. It's happened to me countless amounts of times. But at other times, it can be the reason why you win games. And yeah, I feel like Bunker Buster is the biggest gamble out of all vehicles in the game. But I will say, like, if you are really smart and you coordinate with your teammates and you get like 2 Bunker Busters in and you all go on offense, that could be really tough to deal with when you're defending it. And I think also I realized the more a game goes on, the more deadly Bunker Buster gets because defenses will start going down, munitions will start going up. So Bunker Buster is a lot more free to just get a bunch of damage in. But I do find that there are many situations in which 2,000 munitions you can do a lot of different things with in a more efficient, consistent, and reliable manner. But as I said, Bunker Buster can be really, really clutch if you pick it at the perfect time. So I am gonna put it in B tier. I do think it's pretty good, though not top tier by any means. But I think some people would argue that. Some people probably would argue that, but I wouldn't. It's very hard to rely on sometimes. But who knows? Maybe in the future it'll be better, or maybe it would be worse. I don't know. That's a tough prediction to make. But for now, let's just go with like high B tier, I think. Next up, we got Gatling Truck. It's really good on paper because it costs 1,000 munitions and it's like an assault on wheels, which is actually really good too because it's got great DPS. Its health is not bad. And I don't know, it's actually kind of a steal for 1,000 munitions. I just don't buy it much because I don't need to spend 1,000 munitions on it. I can usually just use a main troop and control an area just with that alone. And I think that's just kind of the problem with Gatling Truck. It's not that it's bad at all, it's just that I don't really need it. Yeah, that's kind of it, man. That's it. It's really strong. It kills a lot of troops. It kills people. It's quite good at killing people. But I could kill people for free. I don't need 1,000 munitions to kill people. Is that enough of an explanation? I don't really know. But I'll go B tier. Look at this like clean line of vehicles, man. 3 in S tier, 3 in A tier, 3 in B tier, 3 in C tier, and Rocket Trike. Next up, we got Hover Raft. When I saw Hover Raft for the first time in like the sneak peeks, I was so hyped because it's another vehicle that you could have passengers in. And just on paper, it looked incredible. Like it's got AoE damage, it's super fast. You could go over water with it. There's just so many cool things about it. And then when I started trying it out, it was just so disappointing because it dies really fast. Maneuvering it is just painful. And I don't know, having one passenger in it doesn't feel all that great because I wouldn't go on offense with it with how little health it has. And the damage I feel like is kind of disappointing too. It's not a crazy amount of damage and it runs out really fast. Because its maneuvering is so wacky, like sometimes you'll not be able to target onto people. Is that a skill issue? Maybe that's a skill issue, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't ever rely on Hover Raft to get damaged. Let's just say that. It's such a cool vehicle. Like, it's one of the coolest vehicles in the game. But I'd never feel like I need to buy it, which really sucks. If Space Apes is looking to buff this thing, I already got a good idea for this. I would say definitely put more emphasis on that damage, bro. Because that AoE damage actually needs to do more work. Also, its munition cost is like, what, 750? Or it's not really worth that much more than 4x4. Actually, it's not even worth as much as 4x4 because 4x4 has way more health. I would buy 4x4 over Hover Raft like all the time. Not that they're ever in the same game, but you know, just saying. I think they need to lower the munition cost from 750 to either 600 or even 550. Because that way you could buy Hover Raft at the start of the game if you have a medic who's just healing and like, you know, gaining some munitions at the start. And they wait for a little bit, they could get Hover Raft at the start. That would be pretty cool. But right now, 750, I'm not putting 750 into the Hover Raft almost always. I'm going with power-ups and I'm just gonna play more standard. So yeah, unfortunately this is another C tier. A lot of C tiers this time around, guys. But at the same time, there's a lot of A tiers and S tiers too, so. Yeah, Hover Raft. You know what? I am gonna put it higher than everything else in the C tier though. I would buy it over the others. It being able to carry a passenger, I think in and of itself is already better than the other vehicles in C tier. All right, next up we got the Bomb Wagon. It's pretty good. I mean, yeah, it's a vehicle that shoots bomblets. That's quite annoying. So it's pretty good. Bomblets obviously do so much damage to armored units, and you're typically using vehicles on armored units, most of them anyways. It can be deadly when you lock onto the HQ with Bomb Wagon, like seriously, it's insane. And it's also a fairly cheap vehicle too, and for the amount of bomblets you could get coming out of that thing, it gets extremely valuable. Think about bomblets, right? They cost 600, and let's say you buy a Bomb Wagon and you get way more bomblets coming out of that thing than you normally would when you just buy the bomblets power up. It could be S tier maybe, but I don't know if it's on the same level as them. Probably not. Like, I would never say it's better than Scorcher or even Tank Hunter. Well, is it better than Tank? No. I will say it's better than Mega Critter though. So I'm gonna put an A tier right here. It's still really good. And that brings us to our final card here. Cryopult. So what are my thoughts on Cryopult, you might ask? Well, anyways, that's enough for me. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found this video helpful. That is my complete vehicles tier list. Obviously, Tank, best vehicle in the game, and Cryopult, it's a card that exists, I guess. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next Boomish Frontlines video. Peace out. Whose idea was it to make Cryopult? Like, seriously.